The green moon of New Busan was beautiful in the evening light. 200,000 people called this place home. They had built farms and schools and hospitals on a world that was once empty rock. Now children played in the streets, and families ate dinner together under an alien sky. Governor Doyan Beek stood on the stage in the central plaza. He was an old man with tired eyes but a warm smile. Today was special. 50 years ago, the first humans landed on this moon. Now it was a real home. "We came here with nothing," Doyan said to the crowd. "We came with empty hands and full hearts. Look at what we built together." The people cheered. Fireworks exploded in the purple sky. Children laughed and pointed at the colors. Captain Unipark watched from her patrol shuttle high above the celebration. She was young, only 28 years old, but she took her job seriously. Her shuttle was the only military ship in the entire system. New Busan was a peaceful colony. They had no weapons, no warships, no soldiers. They were farmers and scientists, nothing more. Her scanner beeped. Something strange appeared at the edge of the system. "That is odd," Yuna said to herself. She checked the readings again. 12 objects had just entered the system. They were too big to be asteroids, but no ships were scheduled to arrive today. She reported it to ground control. They told her it was probably a glitch. The scanners were old. These things happened. Yuna wanted to believe them. But something felt wrong in her stomach. Far below, Dr. Hannah Kwan sat in her laboratory. She was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied alien life. The local plants and animals of this moon fascinated her. She had spent 10 years learning their secrets. Tonight she was not working. She was eating dinner with her colleagues, laughing about old memories. "Do you remember when Doyan first arrived?" one of her friends asked. He was so nervous. He dropped his speech papers in the mud. Hannah laughed. "He has come so far. We all have." She looked out the window at the celebration. Families walked together. Old couples held hands. Young people danced to music. This was what humanity could be. She thought, peaceful, happy. In a small house near the hydroponic farms, a boy named Jiho Kong helped his parents clean up after dinner. He was 12 years old with messy hair and a bright smile. His mother and father worked hard every day to grow food for the colony. "Can I go watch the fireworks?" Jiho asked. His father smiled. "Of course, but be home before midnight." Jiho ran outside with excitement. The sky was full of colors. He found his friends and they watched together, dreaming about the future. None of them knew that the future was about to end. At exactly midnight, the sky changed. The fireworks stopped. A new light appeared, brighter than any celebration. It was not beautiful. It was terrible. 12 massive warships descended through the clouds. They were black and covered with weapons. Strange symbols marked their hulls. Yuna recognized them immediately. These were Orm Dominion vessels. The Orm were an ancient reptilian species. They ruled 200 star systems. They had existed for 10,000 years, and they viewed humans as insects. Governor Doyan ran to the communication center. His hands shook as he opened a channel to the lead ship. "This is Governor Doyan Beek of New Busan Colony. We are a peaceful settlement. We mean you no harm. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." Silence. Then a cold voice answered, "I am Overlord Vashk of the Orm Dominion. Your world is claimed. Your lives are forfeit." Doyan's blood turned to ice. "Please, we can negotiate. We have families here. Children. We are not soldiers." "That makes this easier," Vashk replied. The channel went dead. The first bombs fell seconds later. Yuna tried to fly her shuttle toward the evacuation zones. She screamed into her radio, telling people to run, to hide, to do anything. But her shuttle was small and slow. An Orm fighter appeared behind her. One shot, and her ship exploded into flames. She died trying to save her people. Dr. Hannah was thrown across her laboratory as the building collapsed. Fire burned all around her. Glass cut her face and arms. She crawled through the smoke past the bodies of her friends. The communication tower was still standing. She had to reach it. She had to tell someone. Jiho was running home when the bombs hit his neighborhood. He saw his house explode. He screamed for his parents. Strong hands grabbed him from behind. His father was there, bloody and burned, but alive. His mother, too, his father shouted. Underground now? They ran through the chaos. Bodies lay in the streets. People were screaming, crying, dying. The Orm ships fired without stopping. They were not trying to conquer. They were trying to exterminate. Jiho's parents pushed him into the underground bunker. Other survivors were already there, huddled in the darkness. "Stay here," his mother said. Her eyes were full of tears. "Whatever happens, stay here," Jiho cried. "Come with me, please." But the ceiling above them was cracking. His parents looked at each other. They knew what they had to do. "We love you," his father said. "Never forget that." They pushed the bunker door closed just as the ceiling collapsed. Jiho screamed and pounded on the metal door. But they were gone. His parents were gone. By dawn, the bombing stopped. Not because the Orm showed mercy. Because there was nothing left to bomb. 180,000 people were dead. The farms were ash. The schools were rubble. The hospital was a crater. 50 years of hope and work and dreams destroyed in a single night. Dr. Hannah finally reached the communication tower. She was bleeding badly. She could barely stand. But she found a working transmitter. With her last strength, she sent a signal toward Earth, 40 light years away. It would take time to arrive, but it would arrive. "This is Dr. Hannah Kwan of New Busan Colony," she said, her voice breaking. "They killed everyone, please. Help us." Then she collapsed. In the bunker, Jiho held his knees to his chest and cried in the darkness. Around him, 20,000 survivors waited for rescue. They did not know if anyone was coming. They did not know if anyone cared, but someone did care. And when that signal reached Earth, the galaxy would learn an important lesson. Humanity was not a species that forgot its dead. Humanity was not a species that forgave those who murdered its children. The Orm thought they had killed a colony. They had no idea that they had just awakened something far more dangerous than any weapon they had ever faced. They had awakened humanity's rage. The signal traveled through the darkness of space for 3 days. It passed dead stars and empty planets. It crossed 40 light years of nothing, and then it reached Earth. The technicians at Geneva Communication Center did not understand what they were hearing at first. The voice was weak and broken. There was static and noise. But slowly the words became clear. "This is Dr. Hannah Kwan of New Busan Colony. They killed everyone. Please help us." The room went silent. Someone dropped a coffee cup. It shattered on the floor, but nobody moved to clean it. Within 1 hour, the message reached President Narration. She was the first Korean-born president of the United Terran Federation. She was known for being calm in difficult situations. She never raised her voice. She never showed fear, but when she heard the message, her hands shook. She played it again. And again. Each time, Dr. Hannah's broken voice filled the room. Each time, the weight of those words grew heavier. They killed everyone. President Yoon called an emergency session of the Federation, the Council. Every leader from every human colony attended. They saw the footage from New Busan's satellites. They watched the Orm ships descend. They watched the bombs fall. They watched their people die. Nobody spoke for a long time. What could anyone say? Finally, a diplomat from the Galactic Assembly appeared on screen. He was from an ancient species that had existed long before humans. He spoke with the tone of someone explaining something to a child. "We understand your grief," he said. "But you must accept reality. The Orm Dominion is powerful. You are not. If you attack them, they will destroy all of your colonies. We advise you to negotiate. Perhaps they will leave your remaining worlds alone."
Oh.
President Yoon looked at him with cold eyes. "You want us to do nothing?" "We want you to survive," the diplomat replied. "Pride is not worth extinction." The transmission ended. The council chamber buzzed with angry voices. Some wanted war. Some were afraid. Some did not know what to think. President Yoon raised her hand. The room fell silent. "We will respond," she said. Her voice was quiet but firm. "We will not negotiate with those who murder our children. We will not beg for mercy from those who showed none." She looked at every face in the room. "They think we are weak because we are young. They think we are divided because we argue among ourselves. They are wrong. When someone attacks our family, we do not argue. We act." The council voted. For the first time in human history, every colony agreed on one thing. War. Admiral Taiho Shin received the news on Mars. He was 60 years old, with white hair and scars from old battles. He had fought in the Martian conflicts decades ago. He had seen death and blood and pain. He had hoped he would never see war again. But when he read about New Busan, something changed inside him. His wife was from that colony. She had died years ago, but her family was still there. Her nieces and nephews. Her cousins. Her friends. Now, they were all dead. President Yoon called him personally. "She did not waste time with pleasantries, Admiral Shin," she said. "Do we have permission to win?" He understood what she was really asking. She wanted to know if he would hold back. If he would try to be merciful. If he would worry about what the galaxy thought. "You have permission to make them remember," she replied to his silence. "Make them remember what happens when they touch our people." "Yes, Madam President," Shin said. "I will." Across every human world, something incredible happened. Factories that made farming equipment started making weapons. Scientists who studied medicine started studying warfare. Young people who had never held a gun volunteered to fight. There were no protests. There were no debates. For once, humanity spoke with one voice. Commander Minho Lee was a young tactical officer with a brilliant mind. He had studied every war in human history. He had also studied the Orm. He knew their tactics, their weaknesses, their pride. He presented his battle plan to Admiral Shin. It was called Operation Burning Dawn. "The Orm are strong, but slow," Minho explained. "They have not fought a real war in centuries. They have forgotten what desperation looks like. We will remind them." The plan was aggressive. They would not defend. They would attack. They would find the Orm fleet and destroy it. Then they would strike the Orm homeworld. "They expect us to be afraid," Minho said. "They expect us to hide. We will do the opposite. We will come to them." Shin studied the plan for a long time. It was risky. Many soldiers would die. But doing nothing would mean more colonies like New Busan, proved, he said. In a training facility on Earth, Sergeant Suji Choi joined the 7th Orbital Assault Division. She was 32 years old with short black hair and hard eyes. She had been a civilian security officer before the attack. Now she was a Marine. Her commander asked why she had volunteered. "SUJ," I showed him a photograph. It showed a man with a kind smile holding 2 small children. The man was her brother. He had lived on New Busan with his wife and children. Now they were all dead. "These are my niece and nephew," she said. "They were 4 and 6 years old. The Orm killed them in their sleep." The commander nodded. He understood. Half his soldiers had similar stories. Everyone had lost someone. Within 3 weeks, humanity assembled the largest military fleet in its history. 400 warships. 50,000 Marines. Weapons that had been built in a fever of grief and anger. The other galactic species watched in confusion. They had never seen anything like this. Humans were supposed to be weak. Humans were supposed to be divided. How had they done this so fast? They did not understand human nature. They did not understand what happened when someone hurt a human family. Admiral Shin stood on the bridge of the flagship UTFS Indomitable. It was the largest ship humanity had ever built. Around it, hundreds of other vessels waited for orders. Shin picked up the communication device. His voice would reach every ship in the fleet. "Soldiers of the Terran Federation," he said. 3 weeks ago, the Orm Dominion murdered 180,000 of our people. Men, women, children. They died in fire and terror. They died calling for help that never came. He paused. His voice grew harder. The Orm thought they were killing insects. They thought we would cry and hide and accept our fate. They were wrong. The fleet was silent, listening. We are not insects. We are humanity. And when someone attacks our colonies, when someone kills our children, we do not hide. We do not beg. We do not forgive. He took a deep breath. We hunt. Today, we find the creatures that murdered our families. And we show the entire galaxy what happens when you attack humanity. His final words echoed across 400 ships. They wanted war. Let us give them one they will never forget. The fleet jumped into hyperspace. Destination: Orm territory. Mission: revenge. The giant was awake. And it was very, very angry. The Terran fleet traveled through the cold emptiness between stars. 400 warships moved in silence, their engines burning bright against the endless dark. They were entering Orm territory now. Every moment brought them closer to the enemy. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Shin studied the star maps. Commander Minho stood beside him, pointing at different routes and positions. The Orm controlled 200 star systems, Minho said. They have thousands of warships. If we fight them head-on, we lose. Then we do not fight head-on, Shin replied. Minho nodded. Exactly. I have found a path through a dead star cluster. No patrols. No stations. We can reach their military headquarters without being detected. The plan was dangerous. If the Orm discovered them early, the fleet would be surrounded. But if they succeeded, they would strike at the heart of Orm power. How long? Shin asked. 12 days? Shin looked at the stars on the screen. Somewhere out there, the creatures that killed New Busan were sleeping peacefully. They had no idea what was coming. Proceed, he said. In the fighter bay below the bridge, Ensign Gion Ru prepared his ship for combat. He was 24 years old, fresh from the academy. This was his first real mission. His hands would not stop shaking. He had seen the footage from New Busan. He had seen children running from the bombs. He had seen families torn apart. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the fire. But seeing was different from fighting. In 12 days, he would face the enemy. He would have to kill or be killed. The thought made his stomach turn. An old pilot named Captain Jun-ho sat beside him. Jun-ho had flown in the Martian conflicts. He had killed before. He had lost friends before. First time is always the hardest, Jun-ho said. Gian looked at him. Were you scared? During your first battle? Terrified, Jun-ho admitted. I thought I would freeze. I thought I would fail. But when the moment came, something changed. I stopped thinking about myself. I started thinking about the people counting on me. He pointed at the photograph on Gion's console. It showed a young woman with a kind smile. Is that your sister? Gion nodded. She lived on New Busan. She was a teacher. She taught little kids how to read. Gunha was quiet for a moment. Then he put his hand on Gion's shoulder. Remember her when you fight? Remember why you are here. That fear you feel. Turn it into fuel. Turn it into fire? Gian looked at his sister's photograph. She would never teach another child. She would never smile again. Because the Orm decided that human lives meant nothing. His hands stopped shaking. Elsewhere on the ship, Ambassador Bora Kim reviewed intelligence reports. She was a diplomat, not a soldier. She spoke 12 alien languages. She understood alien cultures. Her job was to document the Orm's crimes for the galaxy to see, but the more she read, the more horrified she became. The reports showed that New Busan was not a random attack. The Orm had been planning something much bigger. They called it the cleansing. Their goal was to eliminate all human colonies within 10 years. They wanted to wipe humanity from the galaxy. Bora brought the information to Admiral Shin. His face grew dark as he read. They were not defending territory, he said slowly. They were committing genocide. Yes, sir, Bora replied. They saw us as pests, something to be exterminated before we became a threat. Shin looked at the data for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was like ice. Share this with every ship, every soldier. Let them know what we are fighting. The news spread through the fleet like fire. Soldiers who were already angry became something more. They were not just fighting for revenge now. They were fighting for survival. On day 7, the fleet reached an OM supply station. It was a small outpost on the edge of the Dead Star cluster, 20 ORM soldiers and 3 cargo ships. Admiral Shin ordered a strike team to attack. Sergeant Suji Choi led the assault. The battle was short. The ORM were not prepared. They had never expected humans to come this far into their territory. Suji and her team swept through the station like a storm. No mercy. No hesitation. Suji faced an ORM officer in the command center. He was tall, covered in scales, with cold yellow eyes. He looked at her with disgust. "You will all die," he hissed. "Your species is nothing. You will be forgotten." Suji raised her weapon. "We will see." She pulled the trigger. The station's records contained valuable information. They showed the location of Overlord Vosh, the commander who had ordered the New Busan attack. He was stationed at Keth Prime, the ORM's greatest military fortress. Commander Minho updated his battle plan. Keth Prime is heavily defended. 300 warships. Orbital weapons platforms. It has never been conquered in 1,000 years. Admiral Shin smiled. It was not a warm smile. "Good," he said. "When we break it, the entire galaxy will know." On day 10, the Galactic Assembly sent another message. They begged humanity to retreat. They warned that attacking Keth Prime would lead to destruction. President Yoon's response was broadcast to every human ship. "We did not start this war," she said, "but we will finish it. The ORM murdered our people. They plan to murder many more. We will not stop until they answer for their crimes. This is not about pride. This is about justice. This is about making sure no other species ever thinks they can slaughter humans without consequence." The fleet cheered. They were ready. On day 12, the Dead Star cluster ended. Ahead lay Keth Prime. The fortress world filled the view screen, surrounded by rings of warships and weapon platforms. Ensign Jian looked at the massive ORM fleet. 300 ships, each designed for war, each one piloted by creatures that wanted him dead. He was still afraid, but the fear was different now. It was not the fear of death. It was the fear of failure. The fear of letting down everyone who was counting on him. He looked at his sister's photograph one last time. Then he put on his helmet and climbed into his fighter. Admiral Shin opened a channel to the entire fleet. His voice was calm, almost quiet. "We are here," he said. The ORM thought they would never see this day. They thought humans were too weak, too stupid, too young to challenge them. Today, we prove them wrong. He paused. "Think of New Busan. Think of the families that died. Think of the children who never got to grow up. They are watching us now. They are waiting to see what we do." His voice grew stronger. "Do not disappoint them. Fight with everything you have, and show the ORM what humanity becomes when someone hurts our family." The fleet moved forward. The Battle of Keth Prime was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Terran fleet emerged from the darkness like ghosts rising from the grave. 400 warships appeared in 3 waves, their weapons powered and ready. The ORM defenders stared at their screens in disbelief. This was impossible. No enemy had ever reached Keth Prime. Overlord Vosh was in his command center when the alarms started screaming. He looked at the tactical display and laughed. "Humans," he said with amusement. "They actually came. They are stupider than I thought." His officers shared nervous glances. The humans had traveled through ORM territory undetected. They had destroyed a supply station. They had shown no fear. This was not what they expected. Admiral Shin opened a channel on all frequencies. His voice echoed through every ship in the system, both human and ORM. "Overlord Vosh, I am Admiral Taiho Shin of the United Terran Federation. You murdered 180,000 of our people. You burned children in their beds. You destroyed families who only wanted peace. The entire galaxy was listening. We are here for you." Vosh responded with contempt. His reptilian face appeared on every Terran screen. "Admiral Shin," he said slowly. You are brave. But bravery is not enough. This fortress has stood for 1,000 years. Greater enemies than you have tried to break it. They all failed. You will fail too, Jin smiled. Perhaps, but we will give you something those other enemies never did. Something to remember. And what is that? Fear the channel closed. The battle began. The Terran ships moved with perfect coordination. Commander Minho's battle plan was simple but brilliant. The fleet split into 3 groups. The first group attacked the Orm defensive line directly, drawing their attention. The second group used asteroids as cover, circling around the enemy. The third group prepared for the main assault. The Orm had more ships. They had bigger weapons. They had 1,000 years of battle experience, but they had never fought an enemy like this. The first Terran ships reached the Orm defensive line. Explosions filled the darkness. Ships on both sides burst into flames. The Orm expected the humans to retreat when they started taking losses. Every other species had retreated. Every other species had valued survival. The humans did not retreat. They pushed forward. Ensign Gian flew his fighter through the chaos. Orm missiles streaked past him. Explosions shook his small ship. His wing leader, Captain Junho, was beside him. Target the orbital platform, Junho ordered. If we destroy it, their defenses will weaken. Gian followed him toward the massive platform. It was covered with weapons, all of them firing at the approaching humans. An Orm fighter appeared behind Junho. Gian saw it too late. Captain, behind you? The Orm fired. Junho's ship exploded in a ball of fire. No. Gian screamed. For a moment, he froze. His friend was dead. The enemy was everywhere. He wanted to run. He wanted to hide. Then he remembered what Junho had told him. Think about the people counting on you. Turn fear into fire. Gian turned his fighter toward the orbital platform. He was alone now. No wing leader. No backup. Just him and his weapons. He flew straight at the platform, dodging missiles and laser fire. The Orm guns tried to track him, but he was too fast, too unpredictable. He reached the core of the platform and fired everything he had. The explosion was massive. The platform broke apart, its weapons going silent forever. Gian flew through the debris, his heart pounding. He had done it. He was still alive. Below the battle in space, a different fight was happening on Keth Prime itself. Sergeant Suji Choi and her team breached the Planetary Defense Command Center. Their mission was to disable the ground-based weapons that protected the planet. The Orm soldiers fought fiercely. But they were not ready for humans. They had trained to fight careful enemies. Enemies who valued their own lives. Enemies who hesitated. Suji did not hesitate. She moved through the corridors like a shadow, her weapon finding every target. Her team followed, covering every angle, watching every corner. In the main control room, an Orm general waited with his guards. He was huge, covered in thick scales, holding a massive blade. "You will die here, human," he growled. Suji looked at him. She remembered her brother's face. She remembered her niece and nephew, 4 and 6 years old, killed in their sleep. "Maybe," she said. "But you first." The fight was brutal but short. When it was over, Suji stood alone in the room. The Orm general lay at her feet. She did not feel satisfaction. She did not feel joy. She only felt tired, but the mission was not finished. She walked to the control panel and started disabling the planetary weapons. In space, the battle reached its climax. The Orm fleet was falling apart. Ship after ship exploded under the Terran assault. Commander Minho's strategy had worked perfectly, but victory was not certain. The Orm still had numbers. They were regrouping for one final push. Admiral Shin made a decision. The Indomitable would lead a direct charge through the Orm defensive line. It was dangerous. The flagship would take heavy damage. Many crew members would die. But it would break the enemy. "All hands," Shin announced. "Prepare for direct assault. We go through them, not around them." The bridge crew looked at each other. They understood what this meant. Some of them would not survive. Nobody complained. Nobody hesitated. The Indomitable surged forward, its engines burning at maximum power. Orm ships tried to block its path. The flagship's weapons tore through them. Missiles struck the Indomitable's hull. Fires broke out on multiple decks. Crew members died at their stations, but the ship kept moving. Admiral Shin stood on the bridge as explosions rocked the vessel. An officer fell beside him, wounded. Shin helped him up and put him in a chair. "Keep fighting," he said. "We are almost there." The Indomitable broke through the Orm defensive line. Behind it, the rest of the Terran fleet poured through the gap. The Orm formation shattered. Overlord Voshk watched from his command ship as his fleet crumbled. He could not believe what he was seeing. Humans were supposed to be weak. Humans were supposed to flee. These humans were not fleeing. They were hunting. Voshk ordered his ship to retreat. He would escape, rebuild, return with a larger fleet. He would have his revenge. But the humans had predicted this. A Terran strike team intercepted his shuttle before it could reach hyperspace. Marines breached the hull and flooded the vessel. Vosh fought, but he was old and tired. The humans were young and angry. They captured him alive. Commander Minho reported to Admiral Shin. "Sir, we have Overlord Vash. What are your orders?" Shin thought for a moment. Killing Voshk would be easy. It would be satisfying. But President Yoon had given specific instructions. "Bring him to the Indomitable," Shin said. "Death is too easy for him. He will watch what comes next. He will see what he created." The battle ended at dawn. 300 Orm warships destroyed. Keth Prime's defenses disabled. The fortress that had stood for 1,000 years had fallen in a single day. The surviving Orm soldiers surrendered. They looked at the human victors with something new in their eyes, something the Orm had not felt in centuries. Fear Admiral Shin walked through the damaged bridge of the Indomitable. Bodies were being carried away. Fires were being extinguished. The cost of victory was high, but they had won. He looked out at the burning wreckage of the Orm fleet. Somewhere out there, alien species were watching recordings of this battle. They were seeing what humanity could do when pushed too far. Good, Shin thought. Let them see. Let them remember. Never again would anyone think humans were prey. Never again would anyone believe they could attack a human colony without consequence. The message was clear. And the galaxy was listening. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Keth Prime. The galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. A young species, barely 3 centuries old in space, had destroyed the military heart of an ancient empire. The impossible had become real. Overlord Vosh stood in chains before a joint tribunal. Representatives from the Terran Federation and the Galactic Assembly watched as the evidence was presented. Recordings of the New Busan attack, documents showing the planned genocide of all human colonies, testimony from survivors. Voshk showed no emotion. He stood tall, his reptilian eyes cold and empty. The chief prosecutor, a human woman with gray hair and steady hands. Read the final verdict. Overlord Voshk, you are found guilty of crimes against sentient life. You ordered the murder of 180,000 civilians. You planned the systematic extermination of an entire species. You showed no mercy to children, to families, to the innocent. She paused, looking at him with disgust. You will not be executed. Death would be a mercy you do not deserve. Instead, you will be imprisoned on Asteroid Station 7 for the remainder of your natural life. You will watch as humanity grows stronger. You will watch as we rebuild New Busan. You will watch as everything you tried to destroy flourishes. Voshku finally showed emotion. His face twisted with hatred. You will regret this, he hissed. My people will remember. We will return. The prosecutor smiled. It was not a kind smile. Your people have surrendered. Your fleet is destroyed. Your empire is broken. And every species in the galaxy now knows what happens when someone attacks humanity. You are not a threat anymore, Vosh. You are a lesson. Guards took him away. He would spend the rest of his long life alone, watching humanity thrive. The Orm Dominion surrendered unconditionally. They had no choice. Their military was shattered. Their fortress had fallen. Other species, sensing weakness, were circling like predators. The terms were harsh. The Orm would surrender all warships. They would pay reparations to New Bizan's survivors. They would allow Terran inspectors to monitor their worlds. They would never threaten human colonies again. The Orm leaders accepted everything. They had learned an important lesson. Humans were not insects. Humans were not prey. Humans were something far more dangerous, a species that protected its own at any cost. On Earth, the celebrations were mixed with grief. They had won, but the cost was heavy. Thousands of soldiers had died in the battle. Their families mourned even as others cheered. Admiral Shin retired from military service. He had given everything to this war. He was tired, old, and ready to rest. His final act was naming the new flagship of the Terran fleet. The old Indomitable had been badly damaged and was being repaired, but a new, larger ship was being built. It needed a name. Shin chose UTFS New Busan. The colony they tried to destroy will now protect the galaxy, he said at the naming ceremony. Its spirit will live forever in steel and fire. Commander Minho Lee received a promotion to admiral. He was young, only 35 years old, but he had proven himself in battle. Now he was responsible for training the next generation of Terran officers. His first lesson to his students was simple. Peace is precious, he told them. We must always seek it. We must always value it. But if someone threatens our people, if someone attacks our homes, we must show them no mercy. This is not cruelty. This is protection. The galaxy respects strength. We must be strong enough to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The students listened carefully. They understood. The universe was dangerous. Peace required strength. Sergeant Suji Choi traveled to a quiet cemetery on Earth. The grave she visited was simple, marked only with a name and 2 dates. Her brother had been cremated in the fires of New Busan. There was no body to bury. But his family had placed a memorial here, a place to remember. Suji knelt before the stone. She placed flowers on the grave. Then she sat in silence for a long time. "It is done," she finally said. "They paid for what they did. Vashk will spend the rest of his life watching us grow stronger. The Orm will never hurt anyone again." She touched the cold stone. "I wish you could see the children now. They are growing up on Earth. They have a new family that loves them. They are safe." Tears ran down her face, but she was smiling. "Rest now, brother. We won. We won." On New Busan, the rebuilding had begun. Ships brought supplies and workers from every human colony. Where there had been ruins, new buildings rose. Where there had been ashes, new farms grew. Dr. Hannah Kwan had survived her injuries. She returned to the colony she loved, leading the reconstruction effort. She walked through the new streets, watching children play and families laugh. It was not the same as before. The old colony was gone forever. But something new was growing. Something stronger. A statue stood in the central plaza. It showed 2 hands clasped together, one human, one alien. Beneath it were words carved in stone, from tragedy, unity, from unity, strength, from strength, peace. Hannah looked at the statue every morning. It reminded her of what they were building. Not just a colony, not just a home, a symbol, a promise. A warning. Jiho Kong was 14 years old now. He lived on Earth with his adoptive family, a couple who had lost their own children to illness years ago. They loved him as their own. He was studying engineering. He wanted to build ships, stations, colonies. He wanted to create, not destroy. Sometimes at night he still dreamed of fire. He still saw his parents pushing him into the bunker. He still heard his mother saying, "We love you." But the dreams were not only nightmares anymore. Sometimes he dreamed of the future. A future where he built new worlds. A future where children never had to run from bombs. A future where humanity was safe. He was going to make that future real. The Galactic Assembly formally invited humanity to join the Elder Council. This was an honor reserved for the most powerful species. Humanity had earned its place not through age or wisdom, but through fire and determination. President Yoon accepted the invitation with a simple statement: "We come in peace. We have always wanted peace. We will continue to seek peace with every species that offers the same. But let there be no misunderstanding. Her eyes were hard as steel. We will never be prey again. We will never allow another New Busan. We will protect our people, no matter the cost, no matter the enemy. This is not a threat. This is a promise." The other species listened. They understood. Humanity was no longer a minor power to be ignored. Humanity was a force that demanded respect. Across the galaxy, a saying spread among alien species. Parents told it to children. Soldiers told it to recruits. Diplomats whispered it in meetings. Do not attack a human world. They do not forgive. They do not forget. And they do not lose. 10 years later, a new colony was founded on a distant world. It was beautiful, covered in blue forests and silver oceans. Humans and aliens worked together to build it, symbol of cooperation between species. At the colony's center stood a monument. It showed a child reaching toward the stars, surrounded by flames that transformed into flowers. The inscription read, "In memory of New Busan, in honor of those who fell, in hope for those who rise." Jeho Kong was there for the dedication ceremony. He was 24 now, an engineer who had helped design the colony's infrastructure. He looked at the monument and remembered his parents. He remembered Captain Yuna, who died trying to save them. He remembered Dr. Hannah, who sent the message that started everything. A little girl walked up to him. She was maybe 5 years old, with curious eyes. "What are you looking at?" she asked. Jeho smiled. "The monument. It tells a story." "What story?" He knelt down to her level. A story about how sometimes bad things happen. Really bad things. But if people stand together, if they fight for each other, they can turn sadness into strength. They can build something better. The little girl looked at the monument. Did the story have a happy ending? Jeho looked at the blue sky, the silver ocean, the laughing families walking through the new streets.
Yes,
He said. It did. The story of New Busan was over. But the story of humanity was just beginning, and the galaxy would never forget.